Have you ever made a quick decision only to wonder later why you did? Perhaps you bought something you didn't really need, agreed to a request you initially resisted, or found your opinion subtly shifting on a topic. In our busy lives, we're constantly bombarded with information and subtle attempts to influence us. From advertisements and news headlines to conversations with friends and family, persuasion is everywhere. But how does it really work? And more importantly, how can we become better at recognizing it so we can make more informed choices? Today, we're going to explore what psychologists call persuasion heuristics, essentially the mental shortcuts our brains take. Understanding these shortcuts isn't about becoming cynical or suspicious. It's about empowerment. It's about building a clearer lens through which to view the world, helping us navigate the currents of influence with greater awareness and intention. We'll break down these fascinating psychological principles into practical, understandable insights. So, what exactly is a heuristic? Think of it as a mental rule of thumb. Our brains are incredibly efficient, and to save energy, they often opt for quick, automatic judgments instead of deep, logical analysis. These shortcuts help us make decisions rapidly, but they can also open the door to certain biases, or indeed to being persuaded without us even realizing it. Psychologists often describe two main ways we process information. One is fast, intuitive, and relies on these shortcuts. We call this the peripheral or heuristic route. The other is slower, more deliberate, and focuses on the actual content and logic, the central or systemic route. Persuasion often aims for that quicker peripheral route. Let's look at a few common cognitive biases that stem directly from these mental shortcuts. First, there's the availability heuristic. This is when we judge how likely something is based on how easily examples come to mind. For instance, after hearing a lot about plane crashes in the news, we might overestimate the danger of flying, even though statistically it's very safe. Then we have confirmation bias. This is our tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information that confirms our existing beliefs. If you believe a certain brand is the best, you'll naturally notice and give more weight to positive reviews for that brand, while downplaying negative ones. Another powerful one is the framing effect. How information is presented or framed profoundly influences our decisions. Telling someone a surgery has a 90% survival rate sounds much more reassuring than saying it has a 10% mortality rate, even though they convey the exact same statistical information. And finally, the bandwagon effect. We tend to adopt certain beliefs or behaviors simply because many other people do. Think about popular trends or voting for a candidate because they seem to have widespread support. Now, let's dive into a famous framework developed by Dr. Robert Cialdini, which identifies 6 universal principles of persuasion. These are incredibly insightful because they tap into deeply ingrained human tendencies. The first is reciprocity. This principle suggests we feel obligated to return favors. If someone gives us something, even a small gift, we're more likely to feel a sense of indebtedness and comply with a subsequent request. Think of a free sample at a store. It subtly encourages a purchase.
Next, scarcity. We tend to value things more when they are limited or difficult to obtain. Limited time offer or only a few left signals urgency and desirability, making us act quickly. Then, authority. We are more likely to be swayed by those we perceive as credible experts or figures of authority. Doctors in lab coats, well-known professors, or even just a title like doctor can add significant weight to a message, even if the expertise isn't directly relevant. Fourth, consistency. Once we make a small commitment, we feel a psychological pressure to remain consistent with that commitment, often leading us to agree to larger requests later. Signing a petition, for example, might make us more likely to donate to that cause. The fifth principle is liking. We are more easily persuaded by people we like. This can be due to physical attractiveness, similarity to ourselves, compliments, or even just familiarity. This is why sales associates often try to build rapport and find common ground. And finally, consensus, also known as social proof. When we are unsure, we often look to others to guide our actions. If everyone else is doing it, or if a product has thousands of satisfied customers, we assume it must be a good choice. This is the power of reviews and testimonials. These modern principles have deep roots too. Going back to ancient Greece, Aristotle identified 3 core elements of persuasive communication: ethos, which is the speaker's credibility or character; pathos, appealing to emotions; and logos, using logic and reason. You can see how these timeless ideas still resonate in Cialdini's work today. Now, it's important to pause and acknowledge the ethical implications here. Understanding these principles is a powerful tool, but like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for ill. The line between ethical persuasion and manipulation is a crucial one. Ethical persuasion respects your autonomy and provides truthful information, helping you make a good decision for yourself. Manipulation, on the other hand, often exploits these shortcuts to bypass your rational thought, leading you to do something that primarily benefits the persuader, sometimes at your expense. Knowing these heuristics helps us question, is this message transparent? Am I being given all the facts, or is something being cleverly framed? Am I being pressured to make a decision without enough time to think? This knowledge doesn't make us immune, but it gives us a better chance to pause and reflect. So, what can we do with this understanding? The goal isn't to become cynical, but to cultivate a more conscious awareness of the influences around us. Here are some practical steps you can take. Pause and ponder. When you feel a strong urge to act quickly, especially in response to a limited time offer or a plea for immediate action, take a breath. Ask yourself, why do I feel this urgency? Question the source. Consider the credibility of the person or entity trying to persuade you. Are they a true authority on this topic? What might their agenda be? Look for the why. Instead of just reacting to the emotional appeal, pathos, or the perceived popularity, social proof, try to uncover the underlying logical reasons, logos, for a request or proposal. Check for consistency traps. Be mindful of small commitments that might lead to larger, less desirable ones. Are you doing something because you genuinely want to, or because you feel obligated to maintain consistency with a previous minor action?
In today's digital age, with information constantly flowing and personalized algorithms at play, understanding persuasion heuristics is more vital than ever. Social media, online shopping, and digital news feeds are masterfully designed to leverage these very shortcuts. By recognizing these patterns, we can strengthen our critical thinking muscles. We can become more discerning consumers of information, more confident decision makers, and ultimately more resilient against unwanted or unethical influence. Remember, persuasion isn't inherently bad. It's a fundamental part of human interaction. But by shedding light on the mechanics behind it, we gain greater control over our own choices. We can choose to be influenced by good ideas, solid arguments, and genuine connections, rather than simply reacting to clever shortcuts. This awareness is a gift, the gift of making truly conscious decisions in an often unconscious world.